I'm now speaking with John Slattery, who is President of Commercial Aircraft at Embraer at the Paris Air Show 2019. Thank you again for sitting down with me once a year to have a chat. I have some ideas or thoughts I'd like to share with you. So the first one, of course, is what a year it's been. Bombardier is no longer in the game. Mitsubishi is coming on, and you will soon be part of Boeing Commercial Brazil. Can you shed some light on what you expect over the next year?
Well, to the first part, Addison, yeah, it's been an amazing year on so many fronts. So much activity. It's competitively very dynamic. That's particularly for Embraer being a constant over the course of the last 50 years. Sub 150 seats is now the most competitive place to be in the global competitive patina. That hasn't changed. So Bombardier is exiting commercial aviation, but Mitsubishi is coming in. The market wants competition. My customers want competition. And I feel competition makes us stronger. Competition on a level and fair playing field. There are rules by which we all operate. We don't want state-sponsored competition because that distorts competition. But look, as we look forward, I'm excited for Boeing Brazil Commercial when that comes into being after antitrust approval is secured. And we're now, spending a lot of time and resources supporting that process with the various regulatory authorities around the world.
Okay. Given the sweeping changes in the regional market and Embraer being the most established brand, a bit of a speculation question perhaps here, but how long do you think it'll take for a new entrant to succeed or get established?
A new entrant meaning M or J?
Well, I didn't want to name names, but that is one.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of insurgents coming into the marketplace below 150 seats. It seems to be the easiest point of access to commercial aviation. That being said, we're celebrating 50 years of not only developing and delivering aircraft, but the other part of that we don't talk a lot about, but it's critical to the long-term success, is servicing the aircraft that you deliver to customers. And Boeing's celebrating 100 years, or celebrated 100 years just recently. It takes OEMs multiple decades to become very proficient in servicing your aircraft to the level customers need. And the analog of success is the dispatch reliability and the schedule reliability that they require from their aircraft. So look, again, Addison, we welcome competition. They're coming and will always constantly want to enter the marketplace. Our customers want competition, as I said. It makes us focus more on the airlines and pay more attention to them. I also want to develop more aircraft in the future as Boeing Brazil Commercial to complement the E-Jets. So it's a highly competitive marketplace, and that's the market we live in, and that's the market we have not only survived but thrived in for almost 50 years now.
The E195 E2 appears to be quite competitive economically with larger models on a per seat basis and lower in terms of aircraft mile basis. Is there an overlap with the MAX 7 in the Boeing portfolio? Could Southwest, for example, become a future E2 195 customer to replace the older 737s on a lower density route?
Yeah, you're right. On a per seat basis, we're effectively matching, for example, where the A320 Neo is. But when you're 20+% lower on a per trip basis, it becomes a fundamentally different proposition for the airlines, particularly, by the way, in the down cycle. When costs are going up and yields are coming down, airlines are very much focusing not only on the per seat unit cost, but that relationship between per seat and per trip. Because you can fill an airplane, but you need to fill it at the yield that makes sense. So very much right sizing in the down cycle is much more in vogue than in the up cycle.
Right.
Because everything's getting bigger in the up cycle. In relation to the second part of the question, well, as we go through the antitrust process with the regulatory authorities around the world, we're spending a lot of time, of course, explaining that there is zero overlap between the E2 family and the 737 family. I'll give you an example. our largest aircraft, the 195E2, versus the smallest aircraft on the Boeing fleet, the MAX, or the MAX 7, the 737-7. The 737-7 flies, I think it's 47 or 48% further in range than the 195E2. And it's, I think on a passenger basis, 18% bigger. So fundamentally designed to do a different mission. We built an aircraft to do a very different mission. So there's no overlap in terms of size, in terms of range, in terms of the missions that they're serving. Now, in terms of the airlines that we will want to present our aircraft to, well, the concept of dual fleets, whether it's Ryanair or Southwest or Wizz or any of the other super successful low-cost carriers around the world, of course I look forward to the opportunity of presenting our aircraft to those airlines, whether they are A320 operators or 737 operators in the future. Because in the end, our focus is to bring a net present value accretion proposition to the airlines relative to what they have on a single fleet basis. When we think about the LCCs, they need to broaden their network, their franchise footprint. It is difficult to do that on a sustainably profitable basis when all you're flying is larger metal. Very good between larger trunk routes, but when you want to go to those secondary and tertiary and indeed fourth tier markets, and in China, fourth tier market is bigger than a first tier market in some other countries, it's just very difficult to do it if all you're flying is a 737 and an A320. And I think airlines, when we get the opportunity to present access, literally access to those airlines to present our offering, I think airlines will see that at the net present value, at the bottom line, it is accretive almost immediately. I'm looking forward to that opportunity after we close the transaction with full antitrust approval.
Okay, last question then. Any thoughts on the US scope clause now that the CRJ is winding down? After all, the US airlines need to consider the next generation options. What do you think is the likelihood for a change there?
Yeah, look, at our press conference yesterday, I made the observation that changing scope is almost like a sovereign government changing their currency or revaluing a currency. Everybody swears it's not going to happen until the second after it happens. I'm not convinced in the current round of scope negotiations that you're going to see any meaningful change as it relates to weight. My expectation is that as we cadence into the early 2020s, at that round, it's probably going to be put on the table. Over the course of the last 40 years, scope has always followed the most efficient aircraft. So by definition then, the most efficient aircraft has always been developed before scope allowed for its operation. That's exactly what we're doing with the 175E2, an aircraft that's in final assembly right now. My friends in Pratt & Whitney are shipping the two engines over the course of the next, I think, 8 weeks. We plan to have the first flight of that aircraft before the end of this year. So we're powering on with the 175E2. We have excellent market share with all of the big network carriers, including Alaska Airlines in North America. And I want to continue to present for them the most efficient, sustainable product in their marketplace. And that's today that's the 175, and tomorrow it's going to be the 175E2.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Addison.